Sangaya Namo Guru Mbe Namo Bidaya Namo Yandaramaya Namo Sangaya Namo Guru Mbe Namo Bidaya Namo Yandaramaya Namo Sangaya Kanden Lajen Gwenjen Dogan Rabgai Shosan Bongden Chonzen Chejen Gyabo Gwenjen Losan Sedan Jeba Nede Shesu Denje Nanga Zende Bende Jezu Lama Jebe Zonga Dalun Debe Suna Shenjo Denba Jeje Geja Shuzo Sheje Chungwen Jabe Lode Geza Nabe Genjo Leshe Tabe Beje Lamen Zebe Tongden Tenben Den Yewo Cheyo Nazo Medo Tishen Dobe Nangzen Techa Weisha Yede Chudin Gyazo Shena Xingzhuo Qela Qeba Ganxie Tongmen Dune Saba Lingwa Yiso Mige Jiji Qeba Dongba Sumye Mede Ningnen Yuba Zhabe Shosho Ningmen Dede Mangde Rula Cheje Mangben Denjo Deyu Gombo Jeje Lajin Daja Sambang Tabe Yira Shezu Laman Damba Kena Chogwe Kala Genjin Jinji Sheda Zamben Deje Sima Sabye Cheje Chaba Abdo Namda Vese Yingle Xingba Shuzhu Gola Chado Minga Tame Nangwo Shugu Rabda Sidi Bandu Minu Demba Dazo Jinye Sabe Dendan Zhuwa Gwenlo Jeje Lozan Zhaba Yen Denbe Ningbo Rendo Seje Mingme Zebe Dejin Jere Time Yenbe Wangbo Jambe Dewo Mali Zhongze Sanbe Kanjen Kebe Zhujian Zhongga Lozan Zhabe Shala Sowa Mime Zebe Dejin Jere Kanjen Kebe Zhujian Zhongga Lozan Zhabe Shala Sowa Mime Zebe Dejin Jere Time Yenbe Wangbo Jambe Dewo Mali Zhongze Sanwe Kanjen Kebe Zhujian Zhongga Lozan Tabe Pande Zave Lama Rimbo Tazo Jiwo Benden Densho Kadi Chimbu Gone Jezo Gozon Toji Ngudu Zedo Pande Zave Lama Rimbo Tazo Ningara Benden Densho Kadi Chimbu Gone Jezo Chodan Timo Ngudu Zedo Panden Zave Lama Rimbo Taso Ningara Benden Densho Kadi Chanjo Ningben Ban Denbo Njo Masan Jume Shera Maru Maje Manga Namge Ngobo Shozo Rangli Yishe Juyu Dezo Ngebe Yumla Chanze Lo Deya Ta Gade Para Samgade Bodhi Yeso Ha Deya Ta Gade Para Samgade Bodhi Yeso Ha Deya Ta Gade Para Sangha Bodhi Yeso Gere Tongda Yaju Shiva Mede Nebe Gendan Deba Tenban Rusin Dende Jo Sa Shimbe Let's take a moment and cultivate the highest form of motivation. We call it Bodhisattva motivation or the altruistic motivation, seeking complete enlightenment for the sake of all other sentient beings. And with that kind of at least contrived bodhicitta, we should participate in this precious Dharma discourse.
There's that. Shunzumra the inside here. The Majid King, the Joseph the card, Junju Joseph the Zoo card, so the Mangu said.
I think you know this already. The topic that we are covering now, of course, related to what has been described and stated in A Guide to Bodhisattva Way of Life by Bodhisattva Master Shantideva in the Wisdom Gone Beyond chapter. So, in other words, we focus on more on emptiness, understanding. as Krishna read from the text and explained that Bodhisattva Char Avatar, or our guide to Bodhisattva's way of life by Bodhisattva Master Shantideva, it deals with both the extensive aspect of Dharma, or the skillful means aspect of the Dharma, as well as the wisdom or insight aspect of Dharma. And of course, the subject matter of the guide is more or less about training our mind in the Mahayana path, or the path of the Bodhisattvas. That's why the first chapter starts with the benefits of cultivating bodhicitta and so on. But also, Shantideva touches upon the need to train our mind in the common paths with the initial level practice and intermediate level practice before we could really focus on the Mahayana path and mind training. So in different chapters, Shantideva discusses the need for us to purify our defilements and negativities, and the need to accumulate merit and wisdom. And for this very reason, he talks about the 6 paramitas, or the 6 perfections, from that of the generosity to that of the wisdom gone beyond. And of course, most of the chapters really discusses the first 5 perfections. Of course, they are presented in different orders in his work. For example, he talks about the need to cultivate, mindfulness, introspection, more in the context of the perfection of morality or ethics, right? With mindfulness and introspection, we can keep our ethics, intact. And also, talks about conscientiousness or carefulness. The Tibetan word is pagyo, or vigilance. We translate in many ways just to capture it, the sense which is needed, to prevent ourselves from engaging in negativities, and to stay, involved in the positive thinking and in actions. So throughout the chapter, Shantideva discusses systematically the need for us to cultivate great love, Mahametri, great compassion, Mahakaruna, and through these processes, we can generate bodhicitta, or the mind of enlightened, or bodhisattvas, a state of mind which is basically seeking enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings. And so all this, the practices we call the extensive aspect of the path, or the skillful means of the path, upaya, from generosity to the samadhi, concentration, are called literally branch practices, kind of a secondary. In the sense, all of these things are ultimately meant for us to be able to understand emptiness and cultivate the wisdom realizing emptiness, prajna paramita, right? That's the goal, which is discussed in chapter 9.
상주성 줄을 제바 롬도 제야 돈달이네 용대 태고라 어디지 전부 상주성 배워 중주 동도 상주성 배워 시에로 어 배워 시에가 되 그러나 저거 저어야 세주와 에디 배워 세주 상주성 용대도 뭐 강가 시엔 실내가 시에서는 대 줄을 제다 시고라 대 줄을 제다 시고라 아니 디분 계셔 시고 디셔네 루시나 디서에 디샤 류세한테 So the Liu Seve Liu Sadu was Liu Shada with the Yaladi, never yes with that.
So Shantideva at the beginning takes time to discuss or reflect on the benefits or the advantages of cultivating Bodhisattva's state of mind or bodhicitta, because that makes sense, right? If we see, why we should make efforts to cultivate bodhicitta, what do I get out of it in some sort of thing? What are the profits, like in modern language? What's the gain I have? Then that really motivates us, inspires us to engage in the required study and practice of cultivating, bodhicitta. Of course, the first, bodhicitta we cultivate is called aspiring bodhicitta or aspiring mind of enlightenment, and then from there we go to cultivate engaging mind of enlightenment or practical mind of enlightenment or venturing mind of enlightenment. How wonderful, we translate in so many ways there. It's Jugsem in Tibetan, that's just one word. So that, and then once we are kind of, inspired to extend about, yes, I want to cultivate bodhicitta, and then Shantideva says, of course, to do that, we have to purify our mind of defilements. We need to create more positive energy, accumulate merit and wisdom. So the rest of the chapter, from generosity, patience, things, this is to help us, right, to be able to engage in the method aspect of the path. So as Geshe mentioned earlier, that so in the rest of the chapters, Shantideva, discusses the processes by which we generate, aspiring mind of enlightenment, engaging mind of enlightenment. But it's not only generating such, states of mind, because bodhisattvas, do engage in deeds or actions. So the 6 paramitas or the 6 perfections, right, constitute the action-oriented, right? It's not just you cultivate the mind and because then what do you do? Now you have to get involved in the paramitas or the perfections, to be able to assist in, cultivating the mind and observing the ethics and do other practice, then Shantideva discusses mindfulness, introspection, conscientiousness or carefulness, etc. But all of these things are really primarily meant for, cultivating the wisdom gone beyond or the perfection of wisdom, prajna paramita. Yeah? And so that's why in the text there are lines, as Geshe quoted from his memory, Yenla Dida Tamje ne Tube Sherab to the song. These branch practices are taught by Buddha for the sake of wisdom, the wisdom gone beyond. Meaning these branch practices, meaning generosity to the samadhi, all of these things. Why? In order to cultivate a very effective and powerful wisdom gone beyond, we need all those skillful means, because they amplify the power of the wisdom, and we need the wisdom. Why? That is the primary purpose. Is without that wisdom, as we discussed before, we cannot achieve nirvana or freedom from samsara, and we cannot achieve enlightenment or Buddhahood. So without that wisdom gone beyond, then nirvana and enlightenment are out of reach. But to have that wisdom, so we need to do all those upaya, skillful means practices, so they can amplify, right? They can help us to generate a very powerful wisdom gone beyond.
This is the new social pe so Geshe den. Geshe den pa tie goba do de yela da ta Tibetan to so so you do share up never cheva je ta da yin se samja ma song ri je de da Jushu ko je Geshe da shangju sem da ni dong yu do share tin den ho da she da de ti yan den ho ro.
So if ask what are the themes of this Bodhisattva guide, right? Then we can say two things: bodhicitta and wisdom gone beyond, right? In order to cultivate bodhicitta, the mind of enlightenment, and the wisdom gone beyond, all other practices are talked about to be able to help us, generate those two types of paths. Or those two, those two states of mind.
No, ta yena de ta jebe to de ta yimba. Chuje gezi rimboche to me be se jebale. Simjin sande pa je yena de sheraje juzo de da tabene tibe sheraton sum ton di yimba sum de shera kese du sozman de da o de shera yena da ta de tibe ni se adi tadan Geshe Gyeltsen da yimba de kongzhou karse da muji tomo sambo sonali tin yamira la le so de na yamira muji shera da songja se da tin na yi song is.
So all these branch practices have been taught by Buddha for the sake of wisdom. Those are the root text lines. And the way this commentator or the master explained them, he said, is that from generosity to the samadhi are called branch practices, but all of them are geared towards cultivating the wisdom gone beyond. And he said, I'm just not cooking this one up myself, but I rely upon the work of Bodhisattva Gyeltsen, who authored the 37 practices of Bodhisattvas, right? So Bodhisattva Tome Sangpo explained it that way, and that's why I'm saying here the same thing.
What is it? They share up case of the choice of Buddha. Sure, Namje, Sherani, the G, your detange, Sherani, the G, your detange, Zainde, the Casa Luto Shaji, Swedan, Stone the Madon, your den, Guizawa Sherani. Tada niga drive shira yunsu suma cha. Chudun da tarwa yi juni shebu rigwa yi. Tidara tangbu kuba yi shira yungshin suma cha. 시소 히라지 나바 자세 송신 로 바우장 불라샤베 만자 히라레 틴데스 푼조 푸소소중 메서지 대식도 주도지 추조아 수메쇼도 쇼와 탐지다 용제 소힘하리 탐지자 틴데 히라 유데 띵중중 시서 히라지 나바 마보다 야 Diyo lama rinjo niyo ne hira lapsi tomar sewa cha sheda tunyo mumi gombe tsui me she timi tigo jishi sabar cha tiyo la zon cha tijule sanshi gombe hira yangbar yung She yonde tamzi hirali shun shir kebe de tomar kebe de tiba shena tusu gobe hira ribar juwata tiba masena tada mijunwa songso sawa dire ta kaji hira kesi de tada longa bayu da enu lujogu hira kaka songdo wa hira inji the sheriff, the long dodgy sheriff, and the sure share Maris. But the tin on the sheriff, none that the Taba, the Tabs Java Toilet. She don't you the sheriff or I don't you the sheriff or said that it was that move. So I knew you of the don't you the sheriff, the big shook about and things of you are the total race. What is what?
So as Krishna read from the text, in that text, the words of Arya Nagarjuna were quoted, as well as the great Indian master Acharya Veera Pao, who is also called Ashwaghosh, I think, right? In my footnote, Translator is the author of the 50 stanzas of Guru Devotion, footnote close. So all of them basically are praising the qualities of wisdom. In general, without wisdom, right, we won't be able to, accomplish any kind of what we call qualities, visible or invisible. But in particular, the wisdom we are talking about here is the wisdom realizing emptiness or shunyata, the ultimate nature of reality, and without which, as we said, there's no way to actualize nirvana, there's no way to become a Buddha. But to have really very effective, powerful wisdom, realizing emptiness, we also need all those other practices, because they do amplify, they do assist in developing the wisdom and amplifying, multiplying, or whatever you want to say, its power.
What is it? Tibetan Tonyong Muno Gomez Swim, she made the good Siki Samashas. Better this word, concept. Tonyong Munos of the Lagata, so dog on make long and they call the Doshing Marwa, she said the Sheramana, Samia Mina, Gumia Marwa. She said, Mizia. Tuba dengan do tujuh siu jasa musia. Ini, di siu se, di menurut misi itu gua sabar sahas. Sekarang tuba gua ni dia kai siapa mana? Ini samlo dan gumia ya marwa. Samlo dan samia se, ini samlo dan gumia mana? Ini kita ya toba julja yang marwa. Sekarang kerja itu macam tuba mundur dah jumlah. 거기 시에고로 시 마시는 양승이야 말아. 시보다 더 못해고로 막 맞대발에 런중들 신경 말아. 시디 수로 강갈이야. 조선 거서 야만 되사디. 계시고 시고로 어디 유진도 어디 있으고서.
So an example given to demonstrate the necessity of wisdom for accomplishing spiritual qualities is this, like wisdom is like having a good eyesight. You can see things, right? Without wisdom, we can't see things. We can't see realities. And if we are blind, we need to go to the destination. We need a guide who can see, right? If the guide is blind, then we can lead each other. But the one with a good eyesight can see the way to the destination, and then that good eyesighted person can be guide leading, right, a group of those who have no sight to the destination. So like that, these all other practices are like a sightless. They can't see really. So, but the wisdom can see. So the wisdom can kind of lead them, so to speak, to the destination, or lead us to the destination of nirvana and enlightenment. But as we say, in general, the Tibetan word sherab in certain contexts, this is translator speaking, can be translated as, intelligence, being able to understand things, right? At higher level is the wisdom, right? So in the beginning, for us to be able to practice, we have to learn. So learning comes through listening to teaching or study. But if we don't have the ability to understand things, which is intelligence or we call wisdom, then there's nothing to contemplate. If there's nothing to contemplate on, then there's nothing to meditate on. If there's nothing to meditate on, then there is no way to gain any realizations, period, isn't it? Everything stops there. But if we can understand, right, whatever the practice we want to do, now we can do that practice. We can do the contemplation. We can do the meditation. We can cultivate, the experiences and the realizations and insights. So this is why sherab, wisdom in general, is very essential.
This is the because I never did it. The way the sherab should catch it is that the sherab catch it. Sherab so the water the doing say a sherab and namji minish you are marwa. What is it already? It's the sherab so that Nicholas they were telling you the doing say to your day. Pretend they want to tabat your marwa.
No.
So that then they want to talk about it, don't you do a share of go this? She can show this. You said, tell him, Geshe Phuntsok Gyeltsen, let me be Shartse. Tedaya said, Julamale, share up the Dane, Phuntsok Gyeltsen teacher, share up show you. Teaching Tuzung because the teaching Tuba Tizir, Tuba Cho, Jeda, Dolajang, Ridgebu, Tuba the Den Sherab, Juan Joro, Sherab the Den Numubaradi, Shua Joro, Numumba Mevala, Duji La Minudo, Hesum, so there that you didn't get the Cheba the Dharma here to go Geshe Gyeltsen, he said this. Till he came to you boy, Lam Yomar, yes. But the better today, Julama, sometimes, take what should be Julama. Yoashamogobo. Shira Lake the Dane, Phuntsok Gyeltsen teachers. But Shira, but once upon the Langsaya driven the tour the Sherabe, Hidasia Yomaris, what is it? Phuntsok Gyeltsen teacher, Shera show ye teaching Tuba show Jeda, or Terika, Julamale, Sherab Lehi, Sherab Maive, the Dane, Phuntsok Gyeltsen, Phuntsok Gyeltsen teachers. Or that river boys loved it, and so you do a hero, they have your marriage. Timmy, the sheriff short, he didn't. Tuba teaches, tuba shorts. What is Java tuba Java, tuba Majera, tuba Majina, sheriff, don't share Java, or so, shadow. Dollaja, Reggie, tuba the sheriff John Joro, sheriff the new of the John Joro, new by Mevala, do you love me? Yes, that is Domdo Teresa. Dole, Reggie, tuba the sheriff. John Joros, here, Tuba Mabosina, and to you here Mabogena and Chijen Nengado Maboshiri. Here are the new Radisho Joros, that but the Weka you are the middle of you are the order of your team, the Kaneka, the new Maboshiwa. So that Tuba the Abodezan, and the Tuba, there's sound in any new movement. You will lie, you must. You will lie, my in the Dungan or what
No.
that I can do the Amba you must do him. Say that Dungan Mevara, doing Judy Pongo, the sheriff of here over. So the sheriff gives it under the easy.
So here, of course, we are primarily focused on the wisdom realizing selflessness in general, or in this particular context, we mean the wisdom realizing emptiness. Selflessness, emptiness are synonyms, right? Same thing. And we know that that wisdom is essential, necessary to achieve nirvana and enlightenment. And so even in general, right, if we need to solve some problems and issues, we need understanding and some kind of wisdom, isn't it? Otherwise, we won't be able to address the issues or solve the problems. But in this context, without the wisdom realizing emptiness, then there is no way to put an end to unwanted suffering. Maitreya in his Uttara Tantra, Sublime Continuum, right? Just a footnote. It's not a Tantra. It's Uttara Tantra, you know. So where he says that wisdom is essential for both abandonment of defilements and negativities, we call pangja, objects of abandonment, and wisdom is also needed for langja, the things to be adopted and cultivated. So both practice, to abandon something, to cultivate something, wisdom is essential according to Maitreya in Uttara Tantra. Similar things have been stated also by Buddha in the sutras, where, as Geshe explained, first we have to listen to teaching. So through listening to teaching, we acquire what called the wisdom through listening to teaching, right? Thirveshara, right? There's a wisdom that arises from listening to teaching. So now we have something to contemplate on, right? And so through contemplation, we give rise to the wisdom arising from contemplation, the next level. And then as we continue meditation on the ascertained meaning of the practice or discourse, now we are able to give rise to the other higher level wisdom that comes out of meditation practice. So all these types of wisdom, like, are essential for our spiritual progress and actualizing our spiritual goals, but they have to come systematically. It all starts with listening first, right? Listening to teaching Theba in Tibetan. And then it's not enough to listen and understand. We have to contemplate, generate the next level of wisdom. And not enough to contemplate it, to really understand it with certainty, so to speak. Now we have to meditate on it so that we have a deeper insight or a wisdom. So all of these things are systematically done, not in a random sort of order. And so through these processes, we are able to uproot delusions, kleshya, or nirmang in Tibetan, right? Delusions are the causes of all unwanted problems. Anything going wrong in our life is practically delusion, okay? And because, especially the ignorance. So in order to uproot ignorance and all other delusions. So we need to cultivate the wisdom, realizing emptiness, but systematically through listening, contemplation, meditation.
Baba Shada Yeba Songsos, or the Shung Shidu, Tadinima Kaza Shung Jan Shins, Dilma Kono, Samdu in the Yes Sugar, what did it? So the 2 years ago, that Zimbabwe, Tamsi, Subatamje, Subatamje, Moose don't do a sheriff there. Timon and Medava Choa, Medava condition. Long story sheriff condition, the sheriff going to think of all the Jeddah leads you a sheriff Jeddah. Now what don't you do a sheriff? What? Moose, you know what the country, don't you do a sheriff? Moose, you pay to win and draw. You pay to win the country. Sergeant sooner, more than give a good. You don't do a sheriff jail, Pedro with the shoes on my rescue. Carson, you just get the corner of a sheriff jail. Yes, it never does. Because my job in the jail. Jetty, yes, it never the corner who to pay a $10,000 for this over this. Pay top soon, but shut eye in there. Shut eye is. She said, shut up ye, never did ye, Tobacashing. Carson, shoot up ye, never did ye, Tobaca, don't pay your shaw. Cotobacana, dog, Siam, the Tenzin. Says that the drama is Cotobaca, don't pay your shaw. But there is in this on the in his immediate one of the shell goes to Chabajimba. 2 years in Toba Tavi to the rebel go. Tumahigi, they couldn't show Zuba Sumbi shares. What is that of the danger? And show was over the show governor. The lad that has in the Tibetan song said, said that the corner of the Shera, the most jam, during the therapeutic or the damn mother and Sanjay song showed to the Yama Susie.
So the author has cited many different texts and sutras, to substantiate the claim that the wisdom realizing emptiness is essential for attaining nirvana and enlightenment, and therefore we must cultivate that wisdom systematically through listening, through contemplation, through meditation, right? And so in between he provides his own explanations here. And as Kisla read and explained, that all Buddha's teachings or discourses are meant for realizing the ultimate nature of phenomena, truth or emptiness. So all the teachings given by Buddha either explicitly, that's directly, or implicitly, indirectly, like guide us to realize what emptiness is. Because a lot of the teachings, they explicitly deal with emptiness, but many teachings, they really don't directly talk about emptiness, but they, indirectly guide us towards that. And that's why that root text line, all these branch practices taught by Buddha are meant for wisdom, right? Because we need all these other skillful means practices in order to, succeed in cultivating the wisdom and amplifying its power, right? The wisdom realizing emptiness. And so the ultimate intention of Buddha is to guide us to that wisdom realizing emptiness. Why? Because we all want to be free from suffering. We all want to be enlightened. And that wisdom is essential, right? There is no option B here. Geshe didn't say that. That's just the footnote by the translator. And so in another sutra cited there, requested by a person called Yukor Chong. I don't know his Indian name, but it doesn't really matter. His name is not important. But the subject matter in that sutra is very powerful lines, which I happen to memorize, so that's why I can do a better job here. The reason why beings are going round and round in samsara, single existence, because they have not realized tongpa, emptiness, right? The peace that can arise through realizing emptiness, and how things are not produced intrinsically. But because of the lack of that knowledge, we, the sentient beings, are going round and round in samsara. Yeah? So Buddha, out of his compassion, through many different ways, right, skillful ways, with different reasonings, what he did was he tried to guide us into, Juba means guide us into understanding emptiness, right? So Buddha tried his best in 100 different ways to be able to lead us, guide us to understand emptiness, because realizing emptiness is very beneficial, right? If there's no benefit, then we say, so what? Why I have to try that hard, But it is incredibly beneficial, and Buddhists, know that without this wisdom, right, beings cannot be free from suffering that they don't want, and they cannot achieve enlightenment. So therefore, Buddha needs to guide. Buddha wants to guide us to that wisdom, but in a skillful way, right, with all these other practices, and then ultimately is to help us realize emptiness, the ultimate nature of existence. Chikye tongpo sumbe. Chikye tongpo liu nang liu sumbe. Chikye tongpo sumbe. Chikye tongpo rwa. Chikye tongpo sumbe. Chikye tongpo sumbe. Chikye tongpo sumbe. Do chikye tongpo sumbe rwa. Di tongpo ni kwa shigo rwa ge. Re, chikye tongpo sumbe. Chikye ka chikye yungu yogi rwa. Chikye tongpo sumbe. O ti nang li ya, chanshi suwa mambu shu shawa nang, ti nang yugo jong shiwa chik yu sa rwa. O ti nang lu sumbe. So Geshe is talking about where did that quote come from, the one I already translated. It's called Yukhor Chongpa Liu, like a chapter requested for by a Bodhisattva by the name of Yukhor Chong. Well, there seems to be two versions. One is a very short one, and one seems to exist as a part of a larger collection of Parajana Paramita Sutras, which is called Tikye Tongpa, which is 80,000 lines or stanzas of Parajana Paramita Sutra. So in that is a particular, because many bodhisattvas ask questions to Buddha, right? So this is another bodhisattva. So he asks his question. There is a chapter goes by his name, chapter requested for by this bodhisattva. So in that, these lines appear that as I said earlier, why sentient beings are trapped and roaming in samsara is because of not understanding emptiness, peace, and unproductivity. And so Buddha tried in hundreds of different like methods and ways. He tried to guide them to emptiness. Okay.
남다 고송 저하죠. 어디는 대 동서되게도 류승은 대는 요마르데 지게 잡에 류 지역 생활지죠. 어디는 도스 어디야 어디
남다 고송 그때 봤어 봐게.
남다 고송 마셔 나이네 타가 또 말스고로.
So as Geshe said, this great Tibetan master by the name of Gungtang Rinpoche, Geshe said in his commentary on Namdar Kosum, the three doors to liberation, right? So he has clarified that that chapter requested for by the Bodhisattva, Yukorkyong, right, is a part of that larger collection called 80,000 Prajna Paramita, right? So it's the Gungtang Rinpoche, who brought that out. Yeah.
Gongren Parva Lejan, Gongren Parva said that they Karsa. Lobo Karsa, Kamala Hill, the Hijera.
No.
Some day they got them in Ligvar Sumbate. Mosum to Jive, they call them Mood Saw Shebata. They call them Shua Yido, he so ratamji. They call it Shohi, they call it Baba Shada in song sauce. And they low come like a Gordon Parvala song has. Someday they call Show Karsuna, for most don't you think we are Jamena. Because you don't you do a time and do Kajia Yomaris. What is so you say, or Teresa, don't you go, don't you mother, that show up without Sagasation, don't you do a share of town drugs. 강제 강사자 비가 밥사람데 돈이 더 벌어야 편도 없는 게 되게 상계성 요 말이죠.
As cited in that text, another great Indian master, Kamal Shil, in Tibetan called Pemeng Angsul, in his middle version of stages of meditation, Bhavana Kram, Gumrim Parva, stated that Buddha either explicitly taught emptiness, talked about it, or implicitly, right, guided beings to that. He said there isn't anything Buddha taught that either explicitly or implicitly, right, deals with emptiness. And as Geshe gives an example, like when Buddha taught about impermanence, right, that's not directly talking about emptiness, but that teaching is really meant to guide to lead to emptiness,
Oh, there are here. Cabers of Lomo Sanji Junction. Dawata was here last some Shevatana. Tanji Kambata, Sibe Dunge, Tashe, Yirang Shanju told the Newa David John, don't you do a share around you like Jacob, Shiji. Doda Pabe Shung Gomba Impari. Shade Gashi what the shade was. Oh, that has dinner, Jidan song Tirishi. How about the Neda Telecar said, Tabatova don't you do the Domogers, the Kakani Shota, Ronju mentioned Tabatam Tova, don't you do Maris. Tamse Shabatova, don't you do in shit. That tells you as 타바 탐제가 가르 또 토고이 날에 또이 마도는 토야요 말이스. 어디 다음에 쇠이 다음에 가사 다음에 차라 매시 찍바 생각이죠. 어디 그래서 두 개바 두세 들이 어디 대조로서는 근데 타바자 타발라야 또이도 그랬어. 어디 다 티랑서는 자 대조도 저도 엄마도 개발도 어디 쇼르히고 어디.
So according to great Indian masters Buddha Palita, Sankhya Chang, and Acharya Chandrakirti, Davatapa, and Mahasattva Bodhisattva Master Shantideva Shivala, so they all unanimously agree that to achieve just nirvana or liberation from samsara, one must realize emptiness. Okay, they all agree with that. Of course, it is needed for enlightenment. So why this matters is if you look in the Buddhist schools of thought or tenets, Dutta, Siddhant, right? Sevatandika Madhyamika school, the sub-school of the Middle Way school, and down below, they assert that to achieve nirvana or liberation from enlightenment, you don't have to realize emptiness. You just have to realize selflessness, right? So they make differentiation. And they also, talk about difference between selflessness of a person and the selflessness of phenomena. So the Tibetan word is dharma, okay, but not tongyi, emptiness, right? So they said, if you are seeking nirvana, not enlightenment, then what you really need is the selflessness. You don't, right? They don't talk about emptiness. But whereas Prasangika Madhyamika schools, the highest Buddhist schools of thought, they said, regardless of whether you want Buddhahood or you want just nirvana for yourself, you must realize emptiness, right? And so that is the kind of quite a different standpoint, like philosophical standpoint among Buddhist schools of thought there. So that's why Buddhapalita, Chandakirti, Shantideva, they are Prasangika Madhyamikans, right? So they say that emptiness is even needed to achieve nirvana. Of course, it is needed for enlightenment.
Maybe seven daily me. More than women, she will Dami Shemba number 2. She you may Taratona, see what Chua is come here about down. More than women, tiny the cherry, they couldn't she be Chua Tendo, rejection legend. Tiki Mukutawi, Jide usual never she. Zimbabwe, Mumbai, and Middle, Yavapani, Dendro, Mevapani, Yendro, Yadashi, Yonshi, near the Tabaji, here, call the toll, Shutaji, Ranshi, Yavazibi. Yudata, Lended, Tanya, maybe. Tawanika Pango, some sauce, what is that? So deep in a Shivala that those that is Jabno. Kondu Gobolijo, Rivachu, Gobolijo, that's all the Tatuza, Gobolijo. The Rivachu, research on the Nigalia, and the Tonito, Coaljo, Tonito, Song Yasu. Don't go to the Rivachu, you were number Medutes, or this was Yuvasi, this was it. The Amazon number Tavato Maris.
No, so.
Maybe Siba Deli Mason and Metaji, Lente Mevatan, and the Rosan Tomarva.
No.
Seta Tavatova is Metoni Dogris.
No.
And the Rosa was some tower like in Leliana Yadhego, what he could imagine and draw your mercy.
No.
More than woman yesterday, and up on more than woman yesterday, the use of a number truth, more than over you miss it, over you what the Lindre was a mero. Mobo me was a Rahimeva. Kaji, Tanya, the Lindre Yavata, Toda Rahime or the Madonna, in Tower of Marie, Titosona, in it, the years of number 2, the Tower Tamija told us over. She, you may have thought, Mumala, Sibala tree, coming was down. More than we were tiny the tree, they couldn't. She was toward the doors, or research only. Taking me that way, the Zimbabwe, Mumbai, the Mumbai, and the Metro, Yavapan, the road, Mevapan, and Yantro, Yantashi, near me the tower, he called Joel, shouldn't you run him? Yavan Zembe, your data, the entire time they never tower. You got about go song so what is that? Go about the research one to teach us. And the way was the lady kid, and ene dendro je mo tabata tabiwa to maris lede mebata ne tabata karsa turi za dendro za to ya maris le song jas seza da koje de tola ene tayu di lede yeme di shoda bujida ya demar me shoda rahi me ode to uris ti to so ene tabata tabiwa to uris ode so da.
So earlier we cited that Buddha Palita, Chandrakirti, Shantideva, they all agree that even to achieve nirvana from samsara, one must realize emptiness. Of course, one has to realize emptiness for enlightenment, right? So now the author quotes, Nagarjuna, who they all have to refer back to, right? Because Nagarjuna is the most authority on this after Buddha, on emptiness. So Nagarjuna, in his two works cited here, Rigpa Tukjapa, 60 Reasonings, and Precious Garland, Ratna Avali, Rinchen Tenwa. So as Geshe explained, in the 60 Reasonings, Rigpa Tukjapa, what Nagarjuna stated is this, that as long as one grasps at self, truly existent self, one cannot achieve liberation or nirvana. As long as one grasps at self, truly existent self, one cannot achieve nirvana. Okay? And if one denies the existence of law of karma and actions, then one will be reborn in unfortunate states. Okay? So one has to avoid these two extremes, right, and realize emptiness to achieve liberation from samsara. That's what the Nagarjuna states in the Rigpa Tukjapa, 60 reasonings. Likewise, he stated in the Precious Garland, Ratna Avali, he said that, if you believe in the infallibility of law of karmic action and results, but with grasping at true existence still, you could still find good rebirths. Okay, so you can go to good rebirths. Okay, now if you deny the existence of law of karma and action, infallibility of that, then forget about even good rebirth. You will be reborn in the bad migrations. And so, in order to achieve freedom from samsara, one has to be free of these two extremes, right? That, as Geshe explained, according to Nagarjuna, all phenomena, means everything that exists, is empty of intrinsic existence, Rangshinji Manduba. Okay? Yet, they are very functional, isn't it? Even though phenomena are empty of intrinsic existence, but the law of karmic action and results infallibly operates and function. Okay? So there is that harmony between, right? Emptiness of intrinsic existence and infallibility of law of karma and actions. So if we understand that, so that understanding of emptiness, dependent arising, can lead us to a liberation from samsara.
Cheba Namja, Lungder, the Taji Goni, Jeba in Gitaya Goni, Mende, Tigba Sonji, Koza Namji, Koza Namji, Gumje, Tawala, Shumi, Cheba Meba, Shivi Sheros. Oh, this is a Shinju Lodu said that the Jonju Geshe said that the Shinju Lodu said, the other tell you is that one. So the Geshe Nakarja, this one, Yakala Sobi, and the Tama Tony Dog, Song Jas. Oh, this one. And the Tabi he gets hit of this would the Tama Tamji Chamber Toil there. And the day, Carson, don't you know a share of the sugar? Tell a time shall move the dog, say, Mother. Don't you know what's up? You have to shall move the dog, take as a cream, Marisi.
No.
Carson, this year, don't you know a share of the shit of the Tirapoya, the white give a line of time shall move the dogs. But you didn't this year with this. What is what she do said? You said, Taba don't you do said or did tell you is that or did it?
Originally, Tabat Karsore, Tabasam Tavala, and Tony about Dorine, Chinsong and Roku Maresra. Tabasam Tavala, Tony talk over the Chinsong and Roku Maresra. 지나가 비게 돈이 더 년에 세다도 되는 가야 고 말이소다. 돈이 더 삼타위 샤 몸을 조가요 말. 년 돈이 더 그대요. 아니 연락되다 탐전에 특별 셋업 될수도 무실로데 말.
돈이 더 셋업이 타바다 탑지 제가 더야기. 어디 니발레발레네 타차 거리스면서 돈이 더 저올이야 타위 샤 문도서 말.
알레 전에 디게 가서 타바 타발레 돈이 더 동니 가서 동니 해봤다고 그랬어 봐게 동니디 톱슈 첨부 제할이야 탑지 찾고 그거 말বে
나
동니디 톱 첨부 요할이야 탑기 찾고 그거 말বে
동니 제가 뜻이고 동니도 톱 첨부야 샤비 찾고
그거 있는 게 아니라 말বে
나
그거 있는 게 아니라 말বে
뭐 다다 동니 또 와서 코 그거서 디바라 코 제바법이 내가 제가 요 말아 동니도 셔라디 제가 보면 네발레라 타위샤 주소고
알아 돈이 더 쳐봐고 또 서로 왜게 롱스
코 로바도 고라
알아 롱스 알아 다 다기 손데 대과 챔ber 시샤진 손데 거와 야라 대다 담지 또 베셔는 세 디스 거게 다다 시바게 tenju 제자서 어디 찍어다 야라 대다 담지 또 베셔는 세 대과 챔ber
타바타발라 돈이도 그래서 저 디서 tenju 시거다
By the way, I understood what Geshe says. Okay, not like I'm lost here. I just have my own questions after clarification. That's what's happening. But I'll just translate what Geshe said. Pause my questions here. As Geshe read, from the text, there is that statement mentioned that just to be able to, the Tibetan word tokpa can be translated understand or realize. And to, I guess, understand it, one does not need to practice generosity and so forth ahead. That's mentioned. I think I'll translate this way. Understanding emptiness does not require practicing generosity and so forth, previously. Yeah? But in order to counteract effectively omniscient obscuration, shidip, right, obscuration to knowledge, then it is essential that, right, the generosity and so forth precede realizing emptiness, because emptiness must be aided, augmented by those skillful means. Otherwise, emptiness alone cannot uproot omniscient, omniscient obscuration, shidip. Okay. In order to uproot or eliminate omniscient obscuration, one must, combine realizing emptiness with the skillful means. That's essential. Okay? But just to be able to understand or realize emptiness, it is not needed, right, necessarily. So that's the distinction being made there. This great master by the name of Shijung Lode, and Geshe has used that before, he wrote what we call the Phuntsok Gyeltsen, great commentary on the guide. It seems like he is a Prasangika philosopher, that he claims that emptiness is necessary, or realization emptiness is essential even for achieving liberation. So in terms of what emptiness is, from Prasangika Madhyamika point of view, there is no difference from the three vehicles point of view, from the Sharvaka hearers point of view, from solitary realizers, Pratika Buddha's point of view, and from Bodhisattva's point of view. Emptiness is just the same according to Prasangika. Okay? There is no qualitative difference in terms of the emptiness. Okay. Is that clear to you now? Okay. Okay.
Oh, they pan punamje se riksosa jive juin but there ninja sembo the changju so tagi shane tikwa chejung ge riksosa nge jeve tumu mai be juin la man punam tumu ge juin ba ta tonyu do hera de se shige tumu ge juin no ju lama yang tikso lama samu sheradi sanji shuji madang she shangju simni paye samu dabada tonyu daba sheradi madabu songso domba kuba leja shangju simni sanji shuadamji je samu sheda shirjin la se papai shige yumshi mundo jele shevi sheru wasa tena sidan goji donyu dobe shera tingme la ya yola sidan goji nishe shimbo tedale mebi sher nirange lang di se sidan go nuje sidan go munyu so wasa o tere da donyu dobe shera de tiba ganga jibaris 다 투모요 지저 티바세 보시죠 가르선 아니 님세세보다 자주선서 들으리스 어떻게 지거를 뭐지 아니 돈이도 어디 있다 티바선과 체어 말이야 디다 디레 태요고 시들이다 다 롱유 메제 되게 돈이도 버셔라 팀에 이제 타바토 돈이도 말이죠 어디죠 다 태요에서 돈이 뭐도 타바서요 말이죠 어디죠.
So as Tesla read and explained, Uttara Tantra, or sublime continuum of Maitreya, is cited in the text. Where it is mentioned that from Prasangika Madhyamika philosophical standpoint, emptiness is just the same for all three yanas or vehicles: Sharvaka yan, Pratika Buddha yan, and Bodhisattva yan. There is no qualitative, quantitative difference here. Okay? And so that's why the wisdom realizing emptiness is metaphorically called mother-like wisdom, isn't it? A mother is a common cause of children, kids, you know. And in this particular context, wisdom realizing emptiness is the mother of all the realized beings in the Sharvaka, Pratika, Buddha, and Bodhisattvas. Whereas great compassion, bodhicitta, are metaphorically called father-like, okay? Because the lineage usually, it seems like it's counted from the fathers. And so to achieve just nirvana, one does not need bodhicitta and great compassion, right? The mother-like wisdom is enough. But to be able to achieve Buddhahood or become a bodhisattva, then the father-like great compassion, the father-like bodhicitta are needed, without which one cannot become a bodhisattva and one cannot achieve enlightenment. So the Mahayana, right, as a lineage can be differentiated from father-like great compassion and bodhicitta, not the mother-like wisdom, because the mother is common cause and father is the individual cause of different lineage. So as is stated there, that the arahats or the arahants in Pali, those who have attained nirvana, they have what we call put an end to the extreme of cyclic existence, samsara. They have ended, but they have not been able to put an end to the solitary peace, isn't it? Because they only have the wisdom, whereas the enlightened being is free of both extremes because has perfected the great compassion and bodhicitta all the way through enlightenment. No. In the Buddhist schools of thought or tenets, Siddhanta, Dutta, the lower schools of Buddhist thought, the Sautrantika, Vaibhashikars and Sautrantikas, they do not talk about emptiness, right? They talk about selflessness. So they said selflessness is essential for achieving liberation or nirvana. So what is selflessness that must be realized to achieve nirvana from samsara is the selflessness of a self-sufficient and substantially existent person. Right? That one. Whereas in the higher schools of thought, Chittamatrin's mind-only school and the Sevatantika Madhyamika school, they said that to achieve nirvana, that's enough. But if you want to achieve Buddhahood, then you must realize emptiness, right? The mind-only school and Sevatantika say. Now, the Prasangika Madhyamika school, the top one in the middle way, they said to achieve nirvana or enlightenment, it doesn't matter, you must realize emptiness. So you see the philosophical differences among these schools of thought. So three different viewpoints are stated here, right? One is in the standpoint of the lower schools of Buddhist thought, Vaibhashikas and Sautrantika. They said, yes, one must realize selflessness in order to achieve nirvana. They don't talk about emptiness, right? Then the Chittamatrin's mind-only school and Sevatantika Madhyamikans, they said, yes, we agree with you that, but if you want Buddhahood, then you have to realize emptiness, another standpoint. And the Prasangika says, regardless if you want nirvana or Buddhahood, you must realize emptiness, right? So we have three different, at least, standpoints here. So we will stop there today. I know you have tons of questions, translator speaking, so hold on to them next week. Gonde gondo pewa sho dongni dawa renpo je ma je bana je jo je yewa nyamba meba I'm skipping a lot of things here. Sa shi be ji shu shi me do zha re la rin ji nin de yan ba de san ye xin do men de be lu wen nan da xin la zhe ba shu kan re ra be guo be xin gam zo bian dan de wa ma lu zhu be jian de se wa tenzin jia zo Sha be se den ba do den ju ji yi dang gu ru ra an den la gan ni yan da ya men jia wa gun do yang da la ma dang den men shi ji be la long ji sa da long ji yun den rab zo nen do ji chang ge go ba nyu do shu